Eto nakakatakot. Ewan ko lang kung di ka matakot. Eto ay ibang lahi na. Ibang lahi na nagsasabi. Ipapakita ko sa inyong video. Bahala na kayong husga. Tanungin kita, what if hindi na sa atin ang Pilipinas? Binenta na? Anong gagawin mo? Ikaw, kayo, tayo. Anong gagawin natin kapag hindi na sa atin ang Pilipinas? Alam niyo mangyayari? Ang mangyayari, magiging habang buhay tayong alipin. Mawawalan ng saysay ang Pinas. Mawawalan ng banyo yung pera. At kami mga OFW, mawawalan na rin ng value. So, ibig sabihin, sa madaling salita, wala na tayong pag-asa. Pag wala pumikilos at wala kikilos, at hindi tayo magsusuportan sa bawat isa, at hindi tayo magkakaisa, ang Pilipinas ay tuluyang mawawala. Panoorin niyo ang video na to. Kayo nang bahala. Humusga. At anong masasabi niyo? Eto, panoorin niyo. The current U.S. puppet leader of the Philippines, Bongbong Marcos, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., he is the epitome of what happens when you have a government that is led by these comprador elites who are willing to sell out their country, and they do not care one bit about the interests of the working class. The Spanish language has the best word for these corrupt comprador leaders. It is vende patria. Vende patria. It literally means to sell your homeland. And we see this with many of the right-wing pro-US leaders in Latin America. For instance, Argentina's libertarian, self-declared anarcho-capitalist leader, Javier Milei, who has been selling out his country to US corporations and Elon Musk. Or in the case of Ecuador, the current right-wing dictator is named Daniel Noboa, who is the son of the richest billionaire oligarch in the country. His family is extremely corrupt and linked to organized crime, and he's also a U.S. citizen. And under his rule, his right-wing dictatorship, Ecuador has become the most dangerous country in Latin America with the highest homicide rate. Public services have collapsed. There are constant blackouts. And this is exactly what happens when you have these corrupt comprador leaders who serve the interests of the U.S. empire and U.S. capitalists at the expense of their own country. If you look at poverty statistics for the Philippines, you can see that if you measure relative poverty at the share of the population living on less than $10 per day, you can see that in China, which has a socialist government led by an independent communist party, the Chinese government has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, this poverty measurement of the share of the population living on less than $10 a day has not changed in the past 30 years. Since 1990, 80% of the population of the Philippines has been living in this measurement of relative poverty. Well, in China, in Brazil, countries that have independent leaders, they have reduced poverty significantly. Another example of a success story is Vietnam. China and Vietnam have been remarkably successful in reducing poverty and raising wages, income. They are major success stories. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have the Philippines, which is a complete failure in every metric. And yet, instead of trying to reconsider the abject failure of the Philippine government's political and economic policies, the corrupt oligarchs who govern the Philippines are once again betraying their people to serve the interests of U.S. corporations and the U.S. empire as it wages a new Cold War against China. Paano yun? Malinaw na malinaw, di ba? Ano pagkakaintindi nyo? Ano pagkakaintindi niyo sa sinabi niya? Bangon, mga kabayan. Kilos tayo. Magkaisa. Pag di tayo nagkaisa, mawawala tayo ng saysay. God bless Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.